They say the loudest revenge is silence, until silence learns to speak. That night, under flashing lights and drunken laughter, I stood in a torn dress, my heart heavier than the music pounding through the floor. He looked at me once, and did nothing. But when I finally decided to speak, the world he built on lies came crashing down, one truth at a time. The night I stopped believing in love didn't begin with pain. It began with laughter, the kind that wraps itself around you and makes you think everything in life is golden. It was the start of freshman year, and I was still learning where I belonged. The campus was buzzing with new faces, new hopes, and that strange feeling that everything was possible. I met Ryan during orientation week. He was the boy everyone noticed, confident, charming, the kind of guy who always knew the right thing to say. He had this quiet smile that felt safe, like he actually saw me. I guess that's what made me fall for him. We met in the line at the coffee shop near the library. He was ahead of me and noticed me struggling to hold my wallet, books, and phone all at once. He offered to pay for my drink, teasing that it was my welcome to college gift. I laughed, thanked him, and we ended up talking for almost an hour right there. He told me about his major, his plans, his love for basketball and indie films. I told him about my small town, my dream of studying journalism, and how nervous I was to start fresh. He said, "You'll be fine, Emily. You have that kind of light people remember." Within a few weeks, we were inseparable. We studied together, ate lunch on the campus lawn, and spent late nights watching movies on his laptop. He called me Em, and I called him Rye. It felt easy, natural, the kind of connection that makes you forget that life can ever hurt. Everyone noticed us. Professors smiled when we walked into class. Friends called us the golden freshman couple. I thought it would last forever. Then came the night of the freshman welcome party. It was the event everyone had been talking about since the semester began. The biggest house off campus, flashing lights, loud music, everyone trying to fit in, to be seen. Ryan told me he'd pick me up after basketball practice. I spent hours getting ready, light makeup, soft blue dress, my mother's small silver pendant that I always wore when I needed luck. But when the clock hit 9, he still hadn't shown up. I called, no answer, texted, nothing. I told myself not to overthink. Maybe his phone died, maybe he'd meet me there. When I walked into the house, the bass from the speakers hit me in the chest. People were dancing, laughing, red cups in every hand. I searched the crowd for him, smiling politely at people I barely knew. Then I saw him, standing near the DJ booth, drink in hand, talking to someone. A girl. She was hard to miss, tall, blonde, confident, the kind of girl who owned every room she entered. Her name was Mia. I'd seen her before, a sophomore who always had attention wherever she went. She leaned close to Ryan, whispering something in his ear, and he laughed. It wasn't the kind of laugh you give to a friend. I walked up to them, trying to stay calm, trying to believe there was an explanation. "Hey," I said, forcing a smile. Ryan looked surprised, almost uncomfortable. "Em, you made it," he said, scratching the back of his neck. "Yeah, I did," I replied, eyes shifting to the girl. She looked at me like I was invisible and then smiled, that fake kind of smile people wear when they're about to be cruel. "Oh," she said slowly, her voice dripping with mock sweetness, "so you're her. The freshman girlfriend." The word, freshman, rolled off her tongue like an insult. "Cute dress," she added, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. "He told me you'd probably wear something innocent." Laughter erupted from the small crowd around us. People were watching. The room felt smaller, the lights harsher. I looked at Ryan, silently pleading for him to say something, to stop her. But he didn't. He just smiled awkwardly, as if this wasn't his problem. Mia took a sip of her drink, her eyes never leaving mine. "Ryan, you really dated her? I thought you liked confident girls. Not little school projects." More laughter. My hands trembled. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, the whispers, the snickers, the flash of someone recording on their phone. My chest felt tight, my throat dry. I wanted to speak, but nothing came out. "Stop it," I finally whispered, my voice shaking. But the music drowned me out. Ryan stepped closer, his voice low. "Em, let's not make a scene. Let's not make a scene." That's what he said while his so-called friend tore me apart in front of everyone. I remember thinking, You don't protect me, you protect your image. Something inside me shattered. I turned around, pushing through the crowd as tears blurred my vision. I could still hear the laughter behind me, like an echo I couldn't escape. I left the party in silence. That night, I sat on my dorm bed, staring at my reflection. My makeup was smeared, my dress wrinkled, but it wasn't the outside that hurt. It was the betrayal. Ryan could have stopped it with one word, one look, but he didn't. He let her break me because silence was easier. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. I didn't need to look to know what it was. Someone had filmed the whole thing. The video was everywhere, group chats, social media, even on the campus forum. I saw the comments. Poor girl, she should have stayed home. She actually thought she had a chance. I deleted the apps, but the damage was already done. Everywhere I went, people looked at me with pity or amusement. No one saw Emily, the writer, the student, the dreamer. They only saw her, the girl humiliated at the party. Ryan didn't call. Not once. Not even to check if I was okay. He walked past me in the hallway a few days later, pretending not to notice. Mia smirked every time she saw me. For weeks, I isolated myself. I skipped classes, avoided the cafeteria, stopped answering Jasmine's knocks on my door. I didn't want to talk. Didn't want to explain. I just wanted to disappear. But Jasmine never gave up. One night, she came into my room with a box of pizza and said, "If you don't eat, I'll call your mom." That made me laugh for the first time in days. She sat beside me and said, "They don't get to decide who you are, Em. You do." I wanted to believe her, but all I could say was, "It hurts." She nodded. "I know, but someday, you're going to make them regret ever laughing." The next morning, she showed me something on her phone. It was a new post from Ryan and Mia, them together, arms wrapped around each other, smiling. The caption read, "Real confidence looks like this heart." I stared at the screen for a long time. My hands stopped shaking. My heart didn't race. Instead, there was this cold calmness spreading through me. I looked up at Jasmine and said, "They think they ended me." I took a deep breath, my voice steady for the first time in weeks. But they just started my story. They say silence protects you, until it starts choking you. The night I saw them post that picture, something inside me broke free. Not in anger, but in clarity. I realized my silence had been their comfort. Every time I kept quiet, they got louder. Every time I cried in private, they laughed in public. So, I decided I wouldn't cry anymore. I would create. I would turn my pain into something so powerful that the same people who mocked me would one day whisper my name. With respect. It started small. The journalism department announced a new project, a short documentary competition called Masks We Wear. The theme was authenticity, how people hide behind versions of themselves to fit in. I stared at the poster for a long time, and something about it felt personal. I knew what it meant to hide. I had worn masks too, the one that smiled when I was breaking, the one that stayed quiet while others destroyed me. Maybe it was time to show the truth. I applied the same day. My advisor looked surprised. "You sure you want to take this on? It's a big project." I nodded. "Yes," I said. "I have a story worth telling." From that moment, I poured everything into it. I carried my camera everywhere, cafeteria, classes, campus lawns. I started interviewing students, asking them about identity, pressure, heartbreak. Most of them opened up in ways I didn't expect. One boy talked about pretending to be confident because he was afraid of being forgotten. Another girl admitted she stayed in a toxic relationship because loneliness scared her more than pain. Their stories were raw, real, human. But as I listened, I realized something deeper. I wasn't alone. Everyone wore masks, some shinier than others, but masks nonetheless. As the days passed, I started filming more confidently. My hands no longer shook when I held the camera. I edited late into the night, cutting scenes, adjusting music, trying to create something that wasn't just about them, but about us. Every frame was a piece of my heart stitched back together. Jasmine helped me too, even when she didn't understand everything. "This is your thing, Em," she'd say. "Make them feel what they made you feel." And I did, because I had decided something. The final segment of my film would be mine. My story. The night of the party, the humiliation, the silence, and everything that came after. But not from a place of revenge. From truth. The weeks flew by. Rumors spread that the documentary screenings would be a big event. The auditorium had already sold out tickets to students, faculty, even local press. The irony was almost poetic. Ryan and Mia had both volunteered to help organize the event. Their faces were everywhere, smiling in posters that said, "Be real. Be brave." The irony made me laugh sometimes. A day before the screening, I got an anonymous text, "I heard your film's personal. Careful what you show, or people might think you're desperate." I didn't need to ask who sent it. I deleted it, smiled, and kept editing. If they thought fear would stop me, they hadn't learned who I'd become. The night of the premiere arrived like thunder. I wore a simple black dress, hair tied back, nothing fancy. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. Jasmine squeezed my hand before we walked into the hall. "You ready?" she asked. I nodded. I've never been more ready. The auditorium was packed, students chatting, professors whispering, cameras flashing. And there, in the front row, sat Ryan and Mia. He looked uneasy, but she wore that same confident smirk I remembered too well. I took my seat in the back row, heart beating fast but steady. When the lights dimmed, silence fell. The screen lit up, and my title appeared, Masks We Wear, A Story of Truth. It began with clips of students laughing, studying, smiling, faces everyone knew. Then came their confessions, their voices trembling, their eyes honest. The crowd was moved, drawn in. And then, halfway through, the scene changed. My voice filled the room. Calm, steady. "We all wear masks," I said in the narration. "Some to survive, some to please, some because we're afraid of what people will say when they see the real us. But sometimes, those masks break. And when they do, you find out who truly stands beside you, and who steps back." The screen flickered. A video clip appeared, the freshman party. The same one that had haunted me for months. Laughter, flashing lights, my trembling face, Mia's cruel words, Ryan's silence. Gasps rippled through the audience. People leaned forward. I could see Ryan's face in the glow of the screen, his eyes wide, his hand tightening into a fist. Mia's smirk disappeared, but I wasn't done. The footage faded to black, replaced by clips of me working, filming, editing, laughing with Jasmine. Then, my face appeared, looking straight into the camera. That night, I said, I thought silence was strength. But silence only protects the people who hurt you. I used to think I needed to be quieter, smaller, easier to love. I was wrong. I don't need their approval. I don't need their apologies. I just needed to find my voice. The room stayed silent, not the heavy silence of discomfort, this was reverent. The kind that happens when people witness truth. I ended with one last line. To the ones who watched me fall and said nothing, thank you. You taught me to rise louder than your laughter. When the screen faded to black, no one moved. Then someone clapped. Then another. And within seconds, the entire auditorium erupted in applause. Some stood, others wiped tears. The sound of it washed over me like light. I felt something I hadn't felt in months, freedom. Ryan turned to look for me, but I stayed where I was. I didn't need to confront him. My words had already done that for me. But as I walked out with Jasmine, he called after me. Emily, wait. His voice cracked, desperate. I turned slowly. His face was pale, eyes searching mine for forgiveness that wasn't his to claim. I didn't mean for it to go that far, he said. You know how Mia can be. I raised my hand, stopping him. You had a choice, I said softly. And you chose silence. He opened his mouth to speak, but I was already walking away. Mia stood a few feet behind him, trying to act unfazed, but her mask had finally cracked too. That night, the campus felt different. People looked at me, not with pity, but respect. Strangers came up to me, thanking me for the courage to show what so many of them felt. One girl said, you made me want to stop hiding. Another whispered, you made me believe I could start again. The next week, the documentary went viral on the university's social media pages. Other schools shared it. Professors praised it as one of the most powerful student films they'd seen. I was invited to speak at an event about self-worth and storytelling. For the first time, my voice mattered, not because it was loud, but because it was honest. A month later, I walked past Ryan on campus. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The silence between us wasn't painful anymore, it was closure. That night, I sat by my window, laptop open, reading the comments under my video. Hundreds of people from different places wrote about their own masks, their own pain, their own silence. I realized something profound then. Sometimes your story isn't just about you. It's about giving others permission to speak too. I looked up at the sky, the same sky that had witnessed my heartbreak, and smiled. My voice had finally found its echo. They broke me in public. But I rebuilt myself in front of the world. And this time, my silence wasn't weakness. It was peace.